Hey yo!
Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking, and well, it's actually the day after St. Patrick's Day, but you'll understand why I opened with that later. This time, I'm looking at the action-adventure game Batman Arkham Origins, released on October 25th, 2013. The origins of Arkham Origins are a bit strange, but I'll try to condense them while still keeping it understandable. Basically, DC was pushing for Rocksteady's next Batman game to be a Silver Age prequel that would focus on the first encounter between Batman and the Joker, while also introducing other notable members of the Justice League in Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and the Flash. The idea would mostly be scrapped in favor of what would become Batman Arkham Knight, but Rocksteady knew they needed a long time to work on it, so game development studio WB Games Montreal was tasked with creating another story in the Arkham universe to hold fans over. To quickly put this timeline into perspective, Arkham Asylum came out in August of 2009 and Arkham City came out in October of 2011. Arkham Knight would eventually release in June of 2015, which itself was after a couple of pushbacks, so Rocksteady really thought fans were too impatient to wait about 3 years for a new game. Plus, I know what it's like to be patiently waiting for a game's release. I have been waiting for a new Kid Icarus game for about 10 years now. Anyway, someone had the genius idea to put one of the most lucrative gaming series at the time in the hands of a studio who had legit never made a narrative game before, and using the core idea of a prequel to the first two games, Arkham Origins was born. Set in Bruce Wayne's second year as Batman, the game was advertised to be all about Black Mask hiring a group of assassins to kill the Batman. And speaking of advertising, so did the game live up to the hype, or was the weight of expectations too much for this new studio to handle? Let's find out as we give it everything we've got! One thing both previous Arkham games have nailed are their extended introduction sequences to set up the story you're about to partake in. You know what Arkham Origins says to that?
You just ran out of time.
That's not to say the opening is bad, though. It accomplishes a lot of what the others did in a shorter time frame. Corrupt Police Commissioner Gillian Loeb announces that Calendar Man is going to be executed tonight, Captain James Gordon denies the existence of a Batman, and a police dispatch details that Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask, is staging a breakout from Blackgate Penitentiary, so Batman heads off to stop it while Alfred politely reminds him it's Christmas Eve. The writers, notably lacking Paul Dini, who wrote the last two games, took inspiration from iconic Batman stories like Year One and The Long Halloween, so fans of those may be able to pick up on certain references. Also, I'd like to take a moment to appreciate the Batsuit in this game. It's my favorite across the entire Arkham series. It actually looks like it protects him, unlike the skin-tight bodysuit from games prior, while also not going full Iron Man like games future. The developers wanted something that looked assembled, not manufactured, and I think they did that perfectly. On the subject of Batman, Kevin Conroy did not return to reprise his role, as WB Montreal wanted a younger-sounding Bruce Wayne. So in stepped Roger Craig Smith. Wait, why does that name sound familiar?
You got me covered?
Roger.
Who's Roger? He's talking to me. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, Batman and Sonic the Hedgehog have the same voice actor. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Voice actors are supervillains and their power scares me. And in case you're wondering if you can tell they have the same VA, no, you can't.
I'm going to make you talk. How much pain you endure before that is in your hands.
Batman progresses through the prison and finds a drone and a human crocodile man, as you do, all the while fighting through Black Mask's men in an attempt to locate him. The combat has been downgraded since Arkham City. Each hit feels more clunky and enemies that definitely should not hit you slide right up to you and get their hit in. Whether intentional or not, I do kind of appreciate this from a storytelling perspective. Batman is less experienced and the suit he's wearing is a lot heavier, so it makes sense in that regard. They also added a letter grading system to each fight that determines how much EXP you get, which I do like. Doesn't mean it's as fun to play as City though. Finding Black Mask and his new friend leads to Sionis betraying Commissioner Loeb, I told you he was corrupt, and placing him in the execution chamber instead of Calendar Man. Croc smashes the drone from earlier, though Batman is able to retrieve the memory card and then confront this monster amongst men on the rooftop.
Now I caught your scent.
I know I caught yours.
My nigga, you just got roasted! Yeah!
This is the first boss fight of the game, and we go 3 for 3 on the first fight being against a much more physically imposing opponent. It's not a terrible fight, but it's not great either. You blow up some fuel canisters in his face, then you fight him and some other guys until he tries to eat you, and then you repeat that a couple times and then the fight ends. With Croc beaten, the GCPD looked to have the Vigilante cornered, but even back in Year 2, the Bat always had a plan. Around now is when you'll get your first upgrade point, and my god, the upgrade system sucks. Like City, it's divided into different categories, but now it's just close combat combat and invisible predator, and you can no longer prioritize whatever you want to suit your playstyle. You instead have to follow these specific upgrade branches. So for example, if you want the multi-ground takedown combo move, you have to get the first 3 ballistic armor upgrades first. It sucks. There's also auxiliary upgrades which can't be unlocked with upgrade points. They have specific challenges you have to complete to unlock them, most of which relate to side quests and other challenges. Returning to the Batcave, the one and only Arkham game to feature it, and analyzing the drone's memory card reveals that it belongs to the Penguin, and treats us to one of my favorite cutscenes in any video game, thus setting up this game's main plot. Black Mask has put a $50 million bounty on Batman's head and has given the offer to 8 assassins: Killer Croc, Deathstroke, Firefly, Copperhead, Deadshot, Electrocutioner, Shiva, and Bane. In order to get ahead of and stop the remaining 7 deadly assassins, Batman heads to what was supposed to be the drone's next stop, an arms deal. But before he does that, I have to go over the Dark Knight challenges. Split into 4 categories, Shadow Vigilante is combat challenges, Gotham Protector is traversal challenges, Invisible Predator is predator challenges, and World's Greatest Detective is just how much of the game you've completed. This is where the other auxiliary upgrades come from, and this system blows. You have to do the challenges in a specific order, and some of them are missable. While attempting to arrive at the specified location, a jamming signal interrupts his auto navigation system, so Batman has to take a trip down and become an electrician real quick while dealing with some mobsters who are tasked by an anonymous individual to mess with the signals. Minor nitpick, I wish they went back to the red detective mode that Asylum had, or gave it a new look entirely to show how his tech improves and changes over the years. But hey, at least we get to see my favorite kind of takedown. I can count the amount of times you're actually able to do that outside of this building on one hand. Progressing ahead leads to the first instance of the best thing Arkham Origins added to the series: crime scene reconstruction. The previous 2 Arkham games rarely touched on Batman's world's greatest detective moniker. Asylum just had trails you'd follow, and City had small stuff like analyzing bullet trajectory and scanning bodies. Arkham Origins has the Dark Knight detective actually solving crimes by analyzing different elements of the crime scene to reconstruct a series of events and discover what happened. It's one of the biggest highlights of the whole game. Batman discovers that the key card was rigged with a bomb and uses a key card he tracks down to bypass it with his cryptographic sequencer. With that trap disarmed, he's free to regain control of the signal.
Well, well, if it isn't the King Thug himself. Think of me as a great big mystery, one you're never going to solve.
Enigma, then.
You didn't think WB Montreal would forget about the Riddler collectibles, did you? And they are simultaneously better and worse than before. Each segment of the map has a fast travel point, though Batman has to break into each relay station and take it back from Enigma before he can use it. And you can't get into some of them until pretty late in the game, which is annoying. On top of that, each section has 10 network relays that need to be destroyed before you can destroy Enigma's own computer in his secret hideout. Along with that, since he's not the Riddler yet, there are no riddles or Riddler trophies. Instead, there are Enigma data packs. His plan is to leak incriminating evidence against Gotham's most powerful, and collecting all the data packs in a set will treat you to said evidence, which are all audio logs. There are still informants like City, however there's no randomization to their appearance. They are all marked on the map and will only appear in those spots. With all this stuff about the map, now's a perfect time to go over that too. This game reuses the Arkham City environment, though makes some significant changes, like Amusement Mile not being flooded, the Industrial District not being taken over by Joker, and the restricted area being changed to Sheldon Park. However, that's not the whole map. They also added Pioneer's Bridge, a massive and annoying to traverse bridge that connects what will become Arkham City to another section of Gotham, complete with the Burnley District, the Coventry, and the Diamond District. Aside from Pioneer's Bridge, I actually like the environment of Origins a lot. Not enough games take place on snowy nights like this. It's fun seeing old environments in new ways, and there's stuff added to make the city feel alive, like random crimes that Batman will hear on the GCPD radio and be able to stop. There's also scannable things like anarchy tags on certain buildings that expose the corruption of the operations within, and plaques on buildings constructed by Cyrus Pinckney that have hidden journal entries detailing his final days. I guarantee a good number of people who played this game had no idea they exist because the game never tells you about them. You just have to find one on your own, and then you're told there are more to find. Back to the story, as Batman approaches the meeting, he has one of my favorite exchanges with Alfred.
I hope you'll try to keep a low profile tonight, sir.
Trust me, I'll take out those assassins before they even know I'm there.
It's not just that. If some curious child looks out to see who's pattering across their rooftop, they'll expect Santa Claus, not a black-clad bat creature.
I don't patter.
I like how they replaced the calm and controlled Batman of the other games with a tough and aggressive one to show how he matures later on. Batman finally crashes the arms deal and steals the SIM card from the phone of Ricky Loose Lips LeBlanc before dropping him onto a massive Christmas tree that definitely could have killed him. However, the signal jammer in the area is preventing him from using the SIM card to locate Oswald, so he has to hack it back. However, even doing that doesn't do the trick, as Penguin uses his own wireless frequency, so Batman has to hack into those as well to be able to triangulate Penguin's position, which ends up being the luxurious ship known as the Final Offer. But before that ship sails, if you watched my Arkham City video, you know where this is going. There's a new side quest to introduce, and it's one of my favorite side quests across the whole series. Each section of the map will have one murder that Batman will have to solve with his crime scene reconstruction. They're a lot of fun, add more to the world, showcase one of Batman's oft-forgotten talents, and lead to a great character moment when Batman is interrogating someone who murdered a young couple who happened to be Bruce Wayne's friends behind the Monarch Theater. In fact, when investigating that crime scene, Thomas and Martha Wayne can briefly be seen. Not everything about this game is great, but there is certainly greatness in it. Speaking of greatness, not enough games have boats you can explore like the Final Offer, which Batman finds out is hosting boiler deck fights, which he decides to crash so he can be introduced to the worst character this game has to offer.
Now there's a naughty geezer. Proper naughty.
This is Tracy, who along with her sister Candy help Penguin with his needs. For now, she introduces the Batman to a special guest.
I'ma kill you. Then I'm gonna jumpstart your heart. And kill you again.
For once, I'm going to let a boss fight play out in its entirety.
I know. Intimidating, ain't I?
I didn't know it was possible to look like more of a punk bitch than Harley Quinn across Asylum and City, but our pal Lester found a way. With Baczynski out of the way and Batman taking out the entire tournament bracket by himself, he navigates through the Final Offer to find Tracy, along the way hearing that Electrocutioner is back on his feet and escaped. There are small moments like this sprinkled throughout the game that do a great job showing that Batman still has a lot to learn. It helps create a similar feeling of doubt and weakness that previous games had, but achieves it in a much different manner. He may not be perfect, but he is still a genius, so he tells Alfred to try and track the pulse coming from the electric gloves. It may come in handy later. You know what rhymes with handy? Candy. And that's exactly who Tracy is talking to when Batman shoves her into a very out-of-place cell. Candy, unlike Tracy, isn't an incredibly annoying character which I never had the displeasure of knowing exists even in a fictional setting. Her bio details that she only aligned with Penguin out of desperation thanks to an economic recession, and can be redeemed, but characters with possible redemption don't fare too well in the Arkham series, so don't expect that to go anywhere. Fun fact, the Final Offer was named that way when Penguin got a hold of it. Before that, it was called the Olivia B. Meredith, which is a reference to Burgess Meredith, real first name Oliver, who played the Penguin in the 1960s Batman show. Batman locates Penguin as he's torturing Alberto Falcone to get his father to leave the illegal weapons business. Anyone who is familiar with The Long Halloween knows that Alberto Falcone is kind of a big deal, and Batman is one of those readers, so he stops Penguin from going any farther and attempts to get a lead on Black Mask.
Lacey Towers, there was a murder. It was supposed to be his same house. Or Black Mask, he's got problems of his own, I'd say. Someone broke in there.
Okay, Deathstroke, you couldn't have waited until after I was done with the interrogation? In all seriousness, this is an exceptional boss fight, essentially acting as the combat equivalent of the Mr. Freeze fight, and is the closest a boss fight has come to feeling like an actual brawl between two expert combatants. While it's not my favorite fight in the game, I understand why it is for so many. It just feels a bit too repetitive and missing something extra to make it stand out above another one that comes later. With Slade down, Batman learns from his very recent past and ties him up, instructing Alfred to tell GCPD where to find him while he refocuses on finding Penguin, now with help from Slade Wilson's remote claw, which is like a better line launcher minus the flip tricks. Penguin says Batman can't get to him, and Batman just listens, turning his attention to the Lacey Towers murder, which Alfred says Black Mask was the victim of. Can you imagine if the main villain of the game just died off screen so early? There would be anarchy!
I am Anarchy, voice of the people, here to save you from the plague of corruption that now infests this once proud city.
Not you! This is Lonnie Machin, aka Anarchy, as if that wasn't obvious. And he ran so Zsasz could walk, because their side quests are similar, but this one is more detailed, yet took place earlier in the timeline. You get it. Anarchy has rigged bombs to certain buildings across Gotham that he believes are the most corrupt, and gives Batman the choice to disarm the bombs or let them blow. Batman doesn't appreciate the polarization of modern politics, so he disarms the bombs, but in order to do so, he has to find an Anarchy messenger who will then tell him the location, and then, like the Zsasz mission, he has to get there before the timer expires. However, there will be other Anarchy followers there to stop him, so Batman has to get there, beat them all up, and destroy the bomb itself before the time is up. After dealing with or ignoring the snarky Anarchy, heading to Lacey Towers begins one of the best sections of the game that swiftly and sharply leads into the worst aspect of the game. Batman overhears that Penguin is the prime suspect because his handprint is at the scene, but he doubts that conclusion because, like, Penguin told him about the murder, and telling Batman you committed a murder is like telling an AEW superfan that you don't love every single aspect of their show. It's basically a death sentence. I like this investigation a lot because the scene itself is so confusing. There's a dead man that seems to be Black Mask thanks to the, well, black mask he's wearing. There's a shattered table, evidence of a fire that made it impossible to ID the masked victim, and most notable of all, a woman hanging from the chandelier like her role model was Sia. The Dark Knight detective easily eliminates Penguin as a suspect thanks to his handprint being above the fire damage, then deduces that the masked man was killed by someone leaning back in a chair, who was then attacked by a man in a white suit, and that the woman, Roman Sionis' girlfriend Tiffany Ambrose, was shot by someone being dragged across the floor. Speaking of Dean's sister, she was texting Roman shortly before she was attacked.
She was sending text messages to Roman Sionis about someone named the Joker.
Oh God, you're not.
We can't be sure about anything yet because Batwayne Bruce Man needs to break into the National Criminal Database to match the DNA samples from the crime scene, but Alfred insists he retrieves the most useless gadget from the Batcave before blazing his way through Gotham City's finest with the largest possible set of air quotes around it. Said gadget being the concussion detonator, which just stuns enemies. Like Arkham City, Origins doesn't have many in-depth explorable interiors, but the ones they do have are very memorable, and the first of them is the GCPD building, which sadly isn't the same building that Freeze would appropriate later. This game does a great job exploring how different Batman's relationships are at the beginning of his crusade, like having to sneak through the bullpen vents while overhearing Captain James Gordon confirm that the Bat exists to cops who still don't believe it, or sneaking past the corrupt SWAT team that Black Mask has let in on the bounty. Batman continues to conveniently overhear things when he stumbles upon Ricky Loose Lips LeBlanc again being interrogated about some disruptor. Batman decides to take over this interrogation and learn the disruptor's location. I know I've barely touched on Predator encounters in this game, but that's because they're virtually unchanged from Arkham City. However, there is one addition that makes some of these encounters painfully easy. You know how I said the remote claw is just a better line launcher? Well, that's because of its power in Predator rooms. Essentially, 2 to 3 times per encounter, you will be able to remote claw an enemy to a gargoyle, acting as an inverted takedown without needing to be anywhere near them. On top of that, you can remote claw them to explosive canisters an endless amount of times, so use the remote claw as much as you can if you're struggling with a room. Access to the server room is being blocked by a signal jammer. Oh man, if only Batman had just learned about a gadget being stored in this very building that can disrupt signal jammers. Oh yeah, he did. Batman stops a mass jail riot that occurred in the 2 minutes since he was last in there and enters a server room where he encounters a certain familiar face. Or familiar voice, I guess.
Easy. I need access to the National Criminal Database.
It's right here.
I don't know why Batman is just okay with this 15-year-old girl seeing him do his bat thing. It's not like they're known to have a social media presence or anything, but it's a good thing he did because she tells him that he can't fully hack into the database without accessing some wires in the sewers. The SWAT team overhears the young Gordon talking to someone and, as you do, their first order of business is throwing fucking tear gas at the police captain's daughter without any attempts to find out who she's actually talking to. Fortunately, it serves as the perfect cover for Batman's escape. Oh, hello. I know now might not be the best time, but your daughter is lovely. Should I apologize now for her inevitable paralysis, or should I wait?
Gordon, clear the line of fire!
Hold your fire.
If he moves, take him down.
You know what? I think I'll wait. All jokes aside, this scene does a great job showing the foundation of Batman and Gordon's relationship. Gordon wants to do things the right way and create a police force that Gotham can rely on and respect, but he knows that some things are out of their capabilities, necessitating Batman to keep the city alive. Of course, he doesn't quite realize that part yet. Alright, I think we've had our fill of the Gordon family for now.
Hello? Hello, Batman? It's Barbara.
How in the f*** did she hack the goddamn Batman's comm system that fast? Regardless, this is yet another side quest, where Barbara relays the location of Penguin's weapons crates to Batman, who then disables them with a disruptor. For the third time in a row, Batman becomes a sewer bat, though these sewers have an infestation of Black Mask's men, including a new enemy type, martial artists. They are quite annoying, can block attacks, and can hit you with attacks that need to be countered by pressing the counter button 3 times. They can't stop him from gaining access to the database and finally discovering the truth.
Here's what happened.
Basically, Tiffany Ambrose and Roman Sionis planned on hiding out in Roman's safe house at Lacey Towers. Tiffany arrived first, but someone got the jump on her and tied her to the chandelier. The masked man that was shot was a decoy Roman sent in so that he could sneak in through the back, but he got caught tripping and lost the fight. The culprit then lit the fire and forced Black Mask to shoot his girlfriend as he was being dragged away. Dawg, what kind of sick man could have done this?
The Joker. He's the shadow I've been chasing.
Oh, fuck donkeys!
Well, there's still a chance this is another misdirection. The only way to find out is to head to Gotham Merchant's Bank, which Sionis' information was just used to access.
You are very cordially,
you are very cordially invited to a party.
and it will be a grand affair.
Grand affair, and it will be a grand affair hosted by the Hatter.
We do hope that you can come.
You can come. We do hope that you can come to share in all the joy.
Greetings and salutations, Batman. I'm Jervis Tetch, inventor, entrepreneur, and part-time haberdasher. You must be wondering why it is I sought you out. Well, I have an employment opportunity I'd like to discuss with you.
Help me! Please! If you can hear this, he's going to...
Oh, don't mind Alice, poor dear. Her mind is all aflutter, and who can blame her after all she's been through? But I'll have her right as rain soon enough. Don't you worry about that.
Okay, no biggie, this is just the best side quest in the game, as Mad Hatter tries to mind control Batman in a way that out-Scarecrow's Scarecrow with beautiful and inspired Wonderland backdrops and camera work that genuinely looks like it belongs in a TV show or a movie. It ends the exact same way the Ra's al Ghul fight ends, with the gadget I never fucking used, but it can't take away from that amazing sequence that is a selling point for this game all on its own. Now where were we? Oh yeah, about to witness the worst aspect of this game.
It's been you this whole time. You hired the assassins. You've been running Sionis' operation.
Yup. Once again, another villain has been advertised as the main villain only to be overshadowed and cast aside in favor of another Joker story. There has yet to be another superhero game series like the Arkham games, so I don't really have anything to compare it to. The closest is Marvel's Spider-Man, but that only has one game and a spin-off. But let me just say this, if they toss aside Kraven the Hunter and Venom in favor of bringing back Dr. Octopus, or God forbid Simon Krieger, I will be equally as upset. Batman has the greatest rogues gallery ever, and you're telling me they couldn't make a single game with a different main villain? I get that the Joker is his arch nemesis, but that doesn't mean he has to face him all the fucking time. I would have much preferred if they went down the Batman Begins route and teased the Joker at the end of the game after a story focused on Black Mask and his assassins. WB Montreal said Black Mask was the perfect villain for this game because he represented the shift from Gotham's traditional mobsters to the more extreme supervillains, but why go through all that planning if you weren't even going to fucking use him? I love the Joker, but this fucking series is the reason he isn't my favorite Batman villain. He is used way too much at the expense of other villains that are inherently more interesting due to their lack of exposure. Now let's get back to yet another Joker story and see if they manage to do something original. Spoiler alert, they don't. Batman recovers from the explosion and has to take out the gun-wielding Joker thugs in one of those rooms I mentioned earlier that is tied to a missable Dark Knight challenge. One of the Predator challenges asks you to clear a room using a group of specific takedowns that can only be accomplished in this room. The last non-Batman standing says that Joker has taken over Sionis' steel mill, but before Batman can head over there, there's a random crying baby. Man, how long has it been since we last seen one of these assassins? What have they been doing? One thing I don't like is that Shiva's whole story is a side mission. Like, she was set up again as one of the main villains thanks to her being one of the 8 assassins specifically hired to kill Batman tonight, and she's relegated to a side quest. You save a cop from electric death, find a dead cop, then fight Shiva inside Sheldon Park before she says you passed the test and leaves. That's it. That last part is actually the one part I like. They never say it, but it's easy to tell that Shiva is a member of the League of Assassins, and the master that chose Batman is Ra's al Ghul. Since that was a big part of Arkham City, and the comics too, it was interesting to see the origins, no pun intended, of that whole thing. Upon entering the steel mill, the same one from Arkham City, Batman breaks into the very office he'll be kicked out of in the future, even if the one wall that should have windows doesn't, and retrieves the building security codes to progress. He breaks into the steel mill's drug lab, all of them have one of those, and interrogates Sionis about the Joker, but once again an assassin refuses to let him finish.
What did you do to me?
Fun fact, that whole sequence is motion captured, and Copperhead herself is captured using 3 different people. Copperhead manages to poison Batman, and, as villains are wont to do, decides not to kill him there and then, but to draw it out just long enough that Batman has a chance to fight back. He gets a sample for Alfred to synthesize an antidote off of, and stumbles back to the surface of the steel mill, all while hallucinating Alfred, Loeb, and the bank manager for some reason. Upon getting through those, it's time for the very annoying Copperhead boss fight. Basically, you fight a bunch of hallucinations and occasionally hit the real Copperhead until Alfred airdrops the poison's cure. After that, Batman ties her up and throws her in a storage container after she tells him that Joker has called a meeting with all the remaining assassins. She says she'll tell him where it is if he lets her go, but he already knows because, and I don't know if you know this, he's the goddamn Batman. You know who's gonna be at that meeting? The Electrocutioner. And remember what Batman said earlier? He can track his gloves. But he's got 2 other things to do before that in the form of 2 new side quests. One involves blowing up Black Mask's drug stashes, culminating with an encounter with him at the church. The advertised main antagonist of the game reduced to a boring and repetitive side quest. You truly hate to see it. You know who else was reduced to a side quest?
My mom!
No, Deadshot. He sends Batman a message via a radio frequency engraved on a bullet shell, whatever works, leading to a Predator encounter at the bank again, so if you didn't clear the challenge before, this is your second and last chance. This is one of the most challenging fights in the game and is, in fact, a more challenging version of a fight that we'll see next time. Deadshot, being the master marksman that he is, will ricochet his sights off a number of surfaces to check in on the other enemies, so you have to watch for that when taking them out. Also, he'll continue to call in new ones so you can't just take all of them out and leave Lawton for last. Things get extra complicated when he moves to the lower floor and a detective mode jammer is activated, but nothing stops Batman. Tracking the Electrocutioner's signal brings Batman to the Gotham Royal Hotel, home to the best interior of the game. He gets into the security room to oversee Joker's meeting with the assassins, all 3 of them that are left.
So, when I hire you to kill the Batman, you...
Shut the hell up and kill the Batman!
So do you have anything else to contribute? I didn't think so.
Did I say 3? I meant 2. Firefly flies off to fuck knows where while Bane stays behind and Batman steals Lester's gloves, giving him the best addition to the combat. Shock gloves.
Watch this!
it's just so satisfying. This is when the royal ascent begins, which will see Batman cross between the two towers in an effort to reach Joker's penthouse, which also includes going through a whole carnival attraction he built and the overview bar between the two towers, which just sounds terrifying. Batman then comes across some bombs set to blow on New Year's Eve, and attempting to disarm them makes them explode on tomorrow's Eve.
Lord, I don't believe it. Tell me we're still getting this.
Yeah, we're still live.
This is Vicky Vale reporting live from the Gotham Royal Hotel, where there has just been a massive explosion. And now it appears the Batman has been blown from the building by the blast and is somehow hanging from the bottom of our helicopter.
Man, no wonder Vicky Vale became Gotham's most successful reporter. She simultaneously has the best and worst luck when it comes to Batman. But hey, at least we get this cool gameplay spot where you have to fight from the perspective of the helicopter's camera. Alfred suggests calling Captain Gordon for help, but Batman always works alone, except when he doesn't, which is the majority of the time now. Batman is moments away from the penthouse when someone decides to crash the party early.
Nice of you to drop in.
Alright, let me guess. Batman is going to try to interrogate the Joker, but Bane is going to interrupt it.
Could you please just give me a minute?
Oh man, this fight is awful. I actually like this section inside, but once Batman gets thrown outside, the wheels fall off. Bane will now use his Venom powers to charge at Batman relentlessly, which has ridiculous homing, and enemy attacks get priority in this game, so stunning him enough to temporarily disable the Venom is another chore. And you have to fight Joker thugs on top of that. And Bane only takes damage when his Venom is off. And he can just turn it back on whenever he wants. Hey Bane, you might want to hurry things up, because I'm pretty sure GCPD are on their way, and you don't want to run out of time.
You just ran out of time.
Oh, too late. Though Bane manages to escape, not without Batman planting a tracker on him like a bat boss, Joker isn't so lucky and gets arrested after Batman saves him from death by fall damage, which, in retrospect, he really shouldn't have done. And now it's time for me to truly become an internet reviewer by crapping all over something people enjoy, because it's time for the Joker's therapy session. For starters, it's already off to a bad start by having his therapist just be psychologist in the subtitles despite being blonde and wearing red, immediately giving away her identity. And then, the mind of a madman. While I do enjoy hearing Joker's perspective on his meeting and relationship with Batman, it's not as effective as it could be for me for two main reasons. One, the focus on Joker's origin story. Now, it's possible this isn't the actual origin story of the Arkham series Joker, but that's hard to believe when they recreate the most common and well-known Joker origin. Failed comedian, Red Hood gang, vat of acid clown man. The visuals are cool, but the first two games portrayed him as this enigmatic force of chaos that he is most often portrayed as, and giving him an origin undermines that. That's where the 2019 Joker movie worked, because he wasn't that chaotic force. He was just a man who inadvertently started a movement and became an idol among the disenfranchised. 2. They restricted what they could write about how Joker sees Batman because they wanted to do two things at once, leading to both coming off as half-baked. They're doing this cute thing where his therapist, who, shock of all shocks, is Dr. Harleen Quinzel, who could have seen that one coming, thinks Joker is talking about her when he's actually talking about Batman, so all his statements are about the person I met tonight. Not a great Harley Quinn origin story when the whole fucking thing could have been avoided if Joker said he won fucking time. Also, Harley is supposed to be a victim of Joker's mental manipulation over many weeks and sessions. He didn't just accidentally make her think he'd fallen in love with her after looking at her twice and talking about his day. I do like Batman's side of things though, with Joker shooting the two thugs on his sides reminding him of his parents' death, and Alfred growing more and more concerned the more the night goes on. But Batman overhears that a Venom user has been brought to the GCPD morgue, and heads off to investigate after obtaining the glue grenade, which is like the freeze blast, but glue. There's also an amazing conversation between Bruce and Alfred.
Stop, Master Bruce. Bruce, I will not in good conscience allow you to go. You're outmatched by these assassins.
What?
You're not some hardened vigilante. You're a young man with a trust fund and too much anger. You're in over your head, and I don't want this to be your end.
Alfred, who do you see when you look at me? The boy whose shoes you used to tie every morning? The teenager you drove to his first date? While you are here every night, I am out there. The only thing between the innocent and the predator.
Be.
No, not maybe. I am. When the mugger or the thief stops to think twice, that is fear. That is what I am. That is why they hired assassins, because I am the reason the criminals breathe easier when the sun rises. So no, Alfred, I am not in over my head. Tonight will not be my end, but it will be theirs.
I also like how this doesn't fracture their relationship for the rest of the game or anything. They immediately come to an understanding afterward that Alfred is just trying to keep the promise he made to keep Bruce safe. Speaking of safe, GCPD is locked down like one after Batman's earlier infiltration, so he has to go through the sewers to access the morgue, where he discovers that the dead mercenary isn't Bane, and that he was injected with a venom-like substance that temporarily alters bone and muscle structure for enhanced power. Now, why does that sound familiar? But this earlier variant comes with the unfortunate side effect of permanently damaging the user's long-term memory. How many more reasons do you need to not do drugs? On the subject of drugs, there's an absolutely terrible side quest focused on destroying venom distribution leading back to Bane's Lieutenant Bird at the My Alibi nightclub that is very uneventful and boring. Breaking into Bane's field HQ, Batman uncovers that Bane was working on something known as TN1, a drug designed to permanently replace his venom addiction with a permanent result. However, he hasn't gotten around to the instant memory loss and permanent and severe mental degradation yet, so he can't use it. And Bane definitely doesn't want to lose that big wrinkle brain of his. Look at what it helped him accomplish. Even Bane is using Batman's own words against him. Literally! Bruce wants to return to Alfred and make sure he stays safe from Bane, but Firefly is beckoning Batman to Pioneer's Bridge by burning the whole motherfucker to the ground, complete with trapped hostages and bombs he'll blow if any cops step on the bridge. Gordon is the officer in charge and Batman tries to get him to cooperate, but he's still not into this whole trusting Batman thing, so he doesn't listen, leaving Batman to disable the 4 bombs by himself. He disables the first 2 in the middle with relative ease and demands Gordon open a blast door to access one side by the time he's done disarming the bomb on the other side. Oh, by the way, this is literally my favorite stretch of gameplay across the entire series. Crossing the different layers of the bridge through its different phases of destruction is a lot of fun, and something I haven't really seen done before. Batman disarms the 3rd bomb, but Gordon refuses to cooperate on the 4th, and then the Bat ends up in the path of the Firefly before he can get there, leading to the Firefly boss fight, which is like the Clayface fight, but better. It's still all about spamming quickfire gadgets and dodging moves, but at least it's more than one gadget. You hit him with glue grenades to tie him up, then batarangs for damage, then the Batclaw when he's stunned. And the fight just takes a break in the middle for Firefly to detonate the last bomb, though Gordon and his squad manage to disable it, leading to a brief platforming section before the second half of the fight, where Firefly's flame burns out. And hey, Gordon and Batman might be coming around to this whole coexisting thing. All is well that ends well. Wait, wasn't there something else we had to do?
I am in your house. Bruce. Bane, come home. Say your goodbyes. Once you've had time to turn grief into anger, then you'll be ready to face me.
Oh yeah, that. Gee, I wonder if Alfred is gonna die even though he's in a game that takes place years after this. But hey, it's still a good character moment and really what this whole game has been building to. A moment where Batman realizes he isn't unstoppable. Batman wants to give up, but Alfred convinces him that Gotham City needs him and that he needs to accept that he can't do everything all on his own. With a renewed confidence, Batman heads to Blackgate to stop Joker's prison riot because of course he started one. Hello, Miss Quinzel. You know, you'd think that Harleen, knowing Joker staged this prison riot just to get Batman's attention, would clue her into the fact that Joker was talking about him in their therapy session since he didn't pay her any mind, but Harley's always been a stupid idiot loser moron in these games, so why should sane Dr. Harleen be any different? I guess. Batman confronts Joker in the Panopticon, which is no longer floating in the sky, and must participate in his game. Bane has a heartbeat monitor strapped to him that is charging this electric chair that Joker's sitting in. So either Batman kills Bane, or the chair charges and Joker dies. And yes, it's round 2 of the same shitty Bane boss fight from before, and Batman gets the best of both worlds by temporarily stopping Bane's heart with the shock gloves before using them to bring him back to life. You know, like our old pal Lester said. And now Gordon knows that Batman doesn't kill people. You think he would have realized that based on the fact that he's defeated 7 of the 8 assassins along with a host of other criminals and none of them are dead? Well, except the one Joker killed.
You leave me no choice, Mr. Wayne.
know this game was also a Bane origin story? Didn't you think it was weird that he didn't look nor act anything like his Asylum or City counterpart? I really like this fight with TN1 Bane. It's another instance where Batman is the one being hunted and he has to use his intelligence to get the best of his opponent. It's a lot more simple than the Freeze fight though. You just have to hide and hit him with takedowns when he's near you, then guide him into the electricity a couple times, and then he's left hung out to dry. Then Batman beats Joker up in a chapel and Gordon doesn't take him in because Barbara helped convince him that he can help give Gotham something to believe in, and that's how the game ends. Kinda anticlimactic, but we're not done yet. There's the Cold Heart DLC that, as the name implies, focuses on Mr. Freeze and his origin story. And it's better than like 75% of the base game because Mr. Freeze is great and nearly impossible to mess up as long as you follow his animated series origin story. Hear that, New 52? And Gotham? Okay, but now we're done. To many people, this is by default the worst Arkham game almost solely because it isn't made by Rocksteady. And while I don't hold this game in the same rarefied air as its two predecessors, I also don't think it's the worst. There's some grim foreshadowing for what's to come. I love the setting and I love a good origin story, and this game tells a pretty good one. I like seeing Batman's first interactions with some of the most iconic characters and seeing how they grow in the game or will grow after it. This game also continued the trend of bringing in lesser known villains with appearances from characters like Anarchy, Firefly, Copperhead, Shiva, and more. On top of that, the game has some amazing interiors and gameplay sections that I always find fun to play. However, this game has one major flaw for me, and you already know what it is: the Joker. He was already the main villain of the last two games in the series, and this one doesn't do nearly enough to justify it happening a third time in a row. I get it, it's showing Batman's first encounter with him, but that still leads to it having the same problem City did. If you're going to tell a very important story with the Joker, don't build the advertising around someone else! Black Mask has never been given his proper time in the spotlight, and after being the main villain, kinda, of Batwoman Season 2, he's fucking earned it. I would have much preferred to see him stay the main villain of this game and dedicate more time to each of the assassins. You know, the actually interesting part of the game. All that being said, Batman Arkham Origins gets a 7.5 out of 10. Despite my complaints, I enjoy almost everything in the game that isn't Joker related, and I probably would replay this game every year if I had easy access to it like I do the remasters of the first two games. However, it's definitely a noticeable drop in quality for the series. Speaking of definite and notable drops in quality, hello Arkham Knight! Well, next time won't be a demonic hellstorm of all-consuming fiery rage like the video that shall not be named that was released on December 10th, 2021. It might get close. I hope to see you there. God help me.
Continue.
How many more bones will you crush? How many lives will you destroy in pursuit of what you call justice? You are the product of everything you fear. Violence, darkness, helplessness. All that remains is for you to watch as I drag your beloved Gotham into oblivion.